So with Burst coming to an end, I know a lot of people are going back and watching the older Beyblade series like Metal Fight and Plastic Gen, and there's discussion floating around about which main character is the strongest. So today we're going to talk about that. I know Burst has several main characters, and Metal Fight technically has two as well, but for the sake of the video today, we're going to be talking about Tyson, Jenga, and Vault. And I don't think the answer is as simple as one character is necessarily stronger than the other. There's a lot of factors that play into it, including the setting of the anime. So that's going to be taken into account as well. So we'll start off with Burst and we'll work our way backwards. So honestly, guys, Vault's a pretty good Beyblader. Now, if you guys compare like power level from like Metal Fight and Plastic Gen, obviously it doesn't equate. But the thing that Vault has going for him is that the setting for Burst is like real life, right? It's more rooted in reality. Like the Beyblades, for the most part, function the way you would see them function in real life, with like, you know, rush shoots or sliding shoots and like bank shots and stuff like that. Like the Beyblades function relatively realistically. So in terms of actual skill, I think Vault actually may be the strongest. Now, it doesn't make him the most powerful, but I think he's probably the most skilled character out of the main characters that we've had from the 3 seasons, ignoring the later MCs for Burst and the second MC for Metal Fight. But I think overall, I think Vault is probably the most skilled. Like if you took away Bit Beast and you took away the like fantasy element from Metal Fight and they were just regular Beyblades, I'm pretty sure Vault would win. So I know people may not like that, but if you think about it, like logically, he probably would. Now, at the very start of Burst, he's, you know, obviously not that good. He has no idea what he's doing. He's, you know, basically gets lucky with tilting his launcher and stuff like that. But as the series progresses, he gets more skilled. And the thing about Burst is the characters really invest a lot of time in getting skilled at the game, like getting better at the game. So as far as just pure skill, as far as realistic Beyblade battles go, Vault is probably the strongest of the 3. So next on, we're going to go to Metal Fight. It's not the end of the story. We still got to talk about power. So obviously Vault loses to Jenga and Tyson. No question. Like Vault would lose. Like if you just pulled them out with the elements they have from each series, Vault would lose. But I think he's the most skilled. As far as Jenga goes, hot take, guys, Jenga's the weakest. Of all of them, he would be the most unskilled of all 3. It's almost never see Jenga actually training to get good at Beyblade. Like, he never actually invests time to try to get better. Now, every once in a while, you know, he'll get an upgrade. He'll get Galaxy Pegasus, and he'll be like, I don't understand. I can't control it. Pegasus won't listen to me. And then, you know, he spends 5 minutes launching it, and he's like, I figured it out. But it's not a skill thing. Like, he's not actually like, man, I need to get stronger. I need to get better. No, he just gets a new Beyblade and then launches it a few times, and he's good to go. And then that's the entire series. Like, Jenga is a plot armor character. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Obviously, you want the main character to win. Tyson wins a lot. Jenga wins a lot. Vault wins a lot. Like, everybody wins, and yes, everybody has their losses. But there's a way to write a character where it doesn't feel like the wins are just given to them because they're the main character. Like, you can make it feel like the main character actually has to try and put in effort. And I don't feel like Jenga does that. And this is like unbiased, guys, because I recently rewatched all 3 series. I haven't watched all the way through Burst, but like the first couple seasons, I rewatched the first couple seasons of Metal Fight, and I've been rewatching the first and second season of the original series. And Jenga just doesn't put any effort in. Like, there's other characters in Metal Fight that try way harder and actually put in effort to get good. Like Kenta, I think, would beat Jenga. If he didn't have plot armor, I think Kenta is probably a more invested and stronger character than Jenga is, as far as actual skill. Now, Jenga's got Pegasus, and Pegasus is what he rides throughout the series in order to win. But if he didn't have Pegasus, if you just gave him a Beyblade, like, he has no idea what he's doing. Like, half the time, you know, when things don't go his way, he's like, I don't understand. What happened? Pegasus! It's, like, I'm not hating on Metal Fight, guys. I love Metal Fight. Especially the second season and, like, the whole Battle Royale portion of, like, the first season. I really like. There's a lot of elements and plot points and characters in Metal Fight that I really like. But Jenga is awful. He's the worst. And I almost stopped rewatching the series because I could not stand his character. Like, if you like Jenga, that's fine. I know a lot of it is nostalgia. You know, when you're 7, you maybe don't dig into things that deep, right? But as somebody who likes to write and, like, really enjoys world building, Jenga's a weak character. He's poorly written. He's just... It's hard to get invested in Jenga because he rarely fails. And when he does fail, he instantly turns around and wins. He doesn't have to... You don't feel like there's an arc to his character. He's very flat. So, in terms of skill, I think Jenga would fall underneath Vault. He would beat him due to power because of plot armor, but I don't think he's the stronger Beyblader. Now, going into Plastic Gen, now we've got to compare, you know, Tyson versus Jenga and Tyson versus Vault. And honestly, this one's hard. This one's kind of hard to scale in both comparisons, because the thing about Metal Fight is the lore, as far as, like, how the power is translated from, like, the Beyblade and, like, the Blader spirit and all that stuff isn't really well explained. And, like, the full scope of how powerful they are isn't really well explained either. The lore's messy. So, like, one example is, like, the battle between Pegasus and Hades Kerbex, where, like, they have that pit or whatever open up, and they're, like, visually, like, it looks like they're in hell, and he's, like, all chained up and stuff. I can't tell if that's physically happening in the show or if it's, like, a visual analogy for what's happening in the Beyblade battle, because it's not really acknowledged, like, whether that's physically a thing, like whether they're physically in, like, some other realm or something. It's not really acknowledged. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I'm not saying that I have a problem with that, but from like a lore perspective, it's really hard to gauge because it's not well explained. But with Plastic Gen, you've got Bit Beasts, which are, like, a more tangible thing and better explained. So if you don't know, Bit Beasts are, like, sacred beasts or mythical, like, creatures or whatever that willingly decide to fight alongside a Beyblader. So, and it correlates to their Blader spirit. So the more, like, fighting spirit they have, like, the stronger their will is to win, the stronger their Bit Beast is, and in turn, the stronger their Beyblade is. So, and that's pretty well established throughout the series. They are, like, a tangible thing. And, like, Dragoon, for example, Tyson basically inherited through his family. It was, like, their family crest on his sword, this dragon that, like, looked out for the family or whatever, and Tyson was able to obtain it, basically. So, like, but in later series, like with Burst, they have avatars, and with Metal Fight, they've got their sort of quasi-spiritual beast thing. It's not the same sort of, like, tangible creature that it is in Plastic Generation. So, power is directly derived from the fighting spirit alongside the Bit Beast. So, trying to figure out whether or not Plastic Gen would be more powerful than Metal Fight is kind of difficult, but we have a couple things to go by. There's an episode in the first season between Tyson and Tala. And Tala and the Blitzkrieg Boys, that whole organization is trying to steal Bit Beast to harness their power to basically take over the world. and Tyson ends up in this battle inside this giant like ice crystal thing that is like outside like time or whatever, and like the whole battle is like gonna dictate what happens with the world. And then in the third season, Brooklyn's introduced, who has Zeus. His bit beast is Zeus. And Zeus is super powerful. Brooklyn's super powerful to the point where he opens a wormhole, destroys reality, sucks the Blade Breakers into another dimension where they're fighting inside a fragmented version of their world. And Tyson has to win this battle in order to reestablish reality as they know it. So just that episode by itself, I think, pretty much establishes that the power scaling in Plastic Gen is much higher than in Metal Fight. I know Metal Fight had some big battles, but I don't think there was ever a point where the entire like world was like fragmented and they were sucked into another dimension. That battle by itself, I'm pretty sure, just puts Metal Fight just a little higher. So I'm gonna say, and Tyson also is invested. He's super into Beyblade. He's super tenacious. And in the very first season and throughout the series, there's like training arcs where they go off. The first season, they go off to like a camp and they spend several days there trying to train and get stronger for the world tournament. And I can appreciate that, because while Plastic Gen does have this like super crazy over the top power thing, the characters still try to get stronger at Beyblade as a hobby or as a sport, as they call it in the show. And so for that reason, I would say that Tyson's definitely is power-wise going to be stronger than Vault, and I think is going to be stronger than Jenga. Skill-wise, he still may be lower than Vault, because like I said, Burst is really rooted in the skill aspect of Beyblade and like very rooted in sort of realism. But as far as like overall power goes, I think it would go Tyson and then Jenga and then Vault. Skill-wise, now when I say skill, I'm again talking about like if you were to remove all of the fantasy elements and they were playing with real Beyblades, like the actual toys, I think it would be Vault and then Tyson and then Jenga. So that's my hot take, guys, on who I think would be stronger in those two aspects. Now, I don't want people to misunderstand me. I'm not trying to dog on any of the series. I will admit that I absolutely dislike Jenga, but there are characters in all of the shows that I dislike. It just so happens that the main character of Metal Fight I can't stand. But this isn't really comparing all of the characters as a whole. I think that there's other characters in the show that are more skilled than Jenga in certain aspects, as far as like, realistic, sort of rooted in reality type stuff. And then, it's their effort as well. The amount of, like I said, like Kenta, I think would be a more skilled Beyblader than Jenga. I think Masamune even like invests a lot of time to try to get better. But, this is not me like trying to show favoritism. This is me trying to objectively think about like who would be better. I'm interested to know who your guys' thoughts on which main character would be better. Feel free to talk about ones that I didn't mention here, but I just thought it was interesting and something that I like thinking about. Just sort of hypothetical speculation about, which characters I think would be stronger, or what would happen if they battled each other. That's another thing that you could talk about too, is if like they were inserted into that world, like how would they do? Like if Jenga was inserted into, Plastic Gen and Pegasus was a bit beast, like how would that change things? Or if Vault was, in Plastic Gen and he had Valkyrie as a bit beast, that was a physical thing, how would that change, the conversation? Which it might, it's hard to say. I think Vault is a very strong MC. I know a lot of people, aren't super big fans of Vault or Burst as a whole, but, it's kind of interesting to talk about. So let me know down in the comments what you think, guys. Feel free to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already to join my Beyblade community here. I'll look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.